The Roman Quests, Escape from Rome, Chapter 4, Aeneas. They were about 2 blocks from home, heading down the dark streets of the Palatine Hill, when Juba felt a tug at his cloak. He whirled round to see it was only his brother. "By the gods, Fronto," he gasped, "don't do that. What do you want anyway?" "You have to carry me on your back." "I what?" "You have to carry me on your back," Fronto repeated. "Remember how Aeneas had to carry his father on his back when they fled burning Troy?" "Of course," Juba said. "Like the silver statue Pater used to have in his study." "Yes, if you get to be the hero, then I get to be his father. Carry me." His voice was loud, too loud. Juba glanced at the dark streets behind them. The Emperor's men might appear any minute. "Play the game," he told himself. "All right," he muttered, "but just to the bottom of the hill." He turned his back to Fronto and bent forward. "By Jupiter," he gasped as his brother climbed aboard. "You're heavy." "Wait, not so tight, you're choking me." Fronto loosened his grasp. "Now you know what Aeneas felt like," he laughed. Juba started to stagger down the hill. "Poor Aeneas," he grunted. With every step, he felt his stomach clench. He was running away like a coward. When they reached a quiet place where an aqueduct passed overhead, Juba could no longer bear his brother's weight, or his guilt. He let his brother down and looked around, breathing hard. Houses were built against and under the aqueduct. At the places where its supporting arches met the walls, they cast inky black shadows. Juba led them under one of these shadowed arches. "What are we doing here?" Ursula asked. "I just remembered something important," Juba whispered. "If this was a real emergency, we would need to bring our household gods for protection. I'm going back to get them. You and Fronto, wait here under this arch. With your dark cloaks, I can hardly see you there. If you don't move and don't peep, you'll be safe. Oh, and if the baby wakes, give her this." He reached into the neck of his tunic, brought out Dora's feeding bottle, and handed it to Ursula. She frowned at it. "This is a stupid game," she said. "I want to go home." "Do you want a puppy?" She put down the birdcage and took the bottle. "If she gets a puppy, can I have a horse?" asked Fronto. "Yes," said Juba. "I'm sure Mater and Pater will let you have a horse." He left before they could protest any more, keeping to the darkest shadows on the side of the road. "Please help me be brave, Father Jupiter," he prayed. "Please help me to be brave." As he hurried back up the dark streets, he tried to muster his courage by resting his hand on the ivory handle of his dagger. He had only seen 2 soldiers searching the house. Maybe with the element of surprise, he could help his parents get away from them. His father was very rich, with enough gold and jewels to buy ships, houses, and slaves. If he could help his parents escape, then the 6 of them could sail anywhere in the empire, to Britannia or Alexandria, maybe even to Asia, the homeland of Aeneas. When he reached his own street, he looked round the corner. For a heartbeat, he thought all was well. The double doors were wide open, as if to welcome his father's clients on a dark winter morning. He could see the silhouettes of their 2 door slaves either side of the door. Then he looked again. The 2 figures were not their door slaves. They were soldiers, wearing the white-crested helmets of the Praetorian Guard, the Emperor's personal bodyguard. And the double doors were not open. They were shattered. Juba shrank back round the corner, his heart pounding furiously. Earlier, peering out of Ursula's room, he had seen a short soldier with a squashed nose and a tall one with a hooked nose. The two by the door were younger and more muscular. That meant there were at least 4 of them, maybe more. It was so quiet that Juba could hear his heart thudding. The houses around his were silent. No shutter squeaked open, no watchdog barked. Only the cicadas creaked faintly. The shouts and banging must have woken his neighbours, but they were probably cowering in their homes, afraid that they might suffer the same fate as his family. Juba felt a sickening plunge of his stomach. He knew that if he called for help, nobody would come. He was on his own. Through the doorway, he could see his atrium. It was so brightly lit by torches that he could even make out the household shrine in the far corner. The shrine was a miniature wooden temple on top of a cabinet. The cabinet itself contained silverware and other treasures, and a secret panel with his father's most precious jewels. Inside the model temple on top of the cabinet were offerings of fruit, small cakes, and charred pine cones. Painted on the back panel were 2 lucky snakes and 2 youths with fluttering tunics. Most important of all were the 3 little statues of Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus. They were his family's special household gods. His father prayed to them every morning and burned incense to them on special days. And his mother always took them on their trips to Naples and back. The 3 figurines were still in the shrine, which meant his parents had not got away. They would need his help. He was mustering his courage when a crash followed by shouts came from within the depths of his house. The 2 guards looked at each other, then turned and went inside. Juba watched them go through his atrium, past the household shrine, and down the corridor that led to the fountain courtyard. A thought occurred to him. If the gems inside the shrine were gone, that might mean his parents were safe. If not, they would need them when they met up again in Britannia. Before his courage could fail, Juba ran forward, his tawny cloak flapping behind him. He hid behind one of the columns of the porch. Its painted plaster was chalky on the sweaty palms of his hands. Hearing nothing, he crossed the threshold into the bright atrium and crouched in front of the shrine. As quickly and quietly as he could, he opened the cabinet doors. 5 life-sized wax faces swung on their nails, 2 on the left, 3 on the right. The death masks of his ancestors seemed to be shaking their heads at him. Their empty eye sockets looked spooky in the torchlight. "Sorry," he whispered, and made the sign against evil. Groping in the depths of the cabinet, his fingertips found the secret panel and felt it fall. His father kept his best specimens in a flat ebony box. Dark green emeralds, light green jasper, pure amethyst, apricot-coloured sardonyx, and a pale pink pearl the size of a chickpea. That pearl was the most valuable thing he owned. "After you children and your mother," his father had told them, "the pearl of Iris is my most valuable possession. In the time of Julius Caesar, it was sold for 10 million sesterces. It is worth more than both our houses and everything in them." The box was there, but it was empty. He felt a huge wave of relief wash over him. Good, he told himself. Pater and Mater must have the jewels. He was gathering up the 3 household gods when the sound of men's voices and the crunch of boots sent a jolt of panic racing through his body. He'd been a fool to return. If the Emperor's henchmen caught him, Fronto and his sisters would be helpless. They thought they were playing a game. They didn't know their lives really were in danger. They had no idea who was after them or where they should be going. Juba looked frantically for a place to hide. The porter's alcove had a painted screen that hid his bench from view. Juba ran to it. But when he slid behind the screen, he saw a sight that would haunt him for the rest of his life.